Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Women in Tech panel. If any one of you have talked to me this week, I have been looking forward to this panel since the first day, since Monday. I'm so excited. Now, my vision, my objective for this panel is really informative, motivational, fun, interactive, maybe thought-provoking panel for women, challenges and opportunities for women in the technology field. Now, we like to hear from women who've been through it, who have navigated their way through, all of the different areas. Now, I couldn't have put together a better panel than I have here. Women from different backgrounds, different culture, different countries, different experiences, and each have their own successes in their own right. So I'm not going to say any more. I'm going to ask each one of them to introduce themselves, to give you a little background of their experiences in women in this technology area. And then I'm going to ask them to each give you one must do and one must not do in this area. And then I will start off with a question. And anytime you guys have questions, raise your hand. It's a big room. We're going to run around with a mic. And we're going to get this going. I want a lot of energy. I want a lot of interaction. Okay? Let's go, Barb. Can I ask you to start, Barb?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for being here. We're really excited to be here, and especially want to thank the gentleman who joined us. Thank you for supporting us. I am a business analysis consultant. At this point in my career, I've done a lot of training and consulting and had a couple small businesses myself. But I thought I would share that I started my career as a mainframe programmer at General Motors in Detroit. And I was very fortunate because even at that point, General Motors really focused on diversity. So we had many women and people of color in the IT group, and I never really noticed. I was very comfortable with that. And I was there for several years, and it was not until I left there and went to work at another company that I realized that maybe women were not always treated exactly the same as everyone else. So I got a great start. I kind of assumed that I would be respected just like everybody else, and I kind of acted that way for the rest of my career, which was a great opportunity for me. So I'm happy to be here.
Okay, great. Any advice of must or must not do?
I would say the must is we need to show confidence when we're asked to do a new project, even though you're always a little bit nervous and unsure if you can do it, but you can't act like you're unsure and not confident. And the biggest must not do for me is don't apologize. Women apologize way too often for things that are not our fault. We're always saying, I'm sorry. And that undermines your confidence, and it makes you appear to be taking responsibility for things that have maybe nothing to do with you. So that would be my must not do.
Thank you, Mark. Christy.
Hi, I'm Christy Hartner. I work for Commerce Bank. I'm thrilled to be here and really honored and privileged to be part of this panel. There's so much knowledge in this room, so I'm actually humbled to be sitting up here because there are so many amazing people in this room and at this conference. So thank you for inviting me to be up here. My background is a little bit different maybe than those on the panel. I did not grow up in the technology field. I actually was a leader in deposit operations at Commerce Bank. So I managed a large group within our organization, about 350 people. And really my skill was leadership and management. It wasn't technology. And so about 10 years ago, I switched and moved into the technology field in business process optimization and operational excellence. And I think the journey for me was so interesting because, and this speaks to my must not do, I walked in saying, I'm not technical. I apologize, I'm not technical. And I would say, don't ever highlight what you're not. Always focus on the strengths that you bring to the organization. So when I moved into that field, I felt as though I'm not sure why I'm here other than I love operational excellence, I love optimization of processes, and maybe I can bring that, having been on the other side, I can bring that into the technology world. The must, I think, is play to your strengths. Find a role or a part of the role that really highlights what you do best and where your passion lies. And I've learned that as I've moved through my career. It's not about trying to bring up the things that you have areas of improvement. It's find the way to maximize the things that you do well and where you gravitate. So anyway, that's my story.
That's great. Thank you. Jasmine.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Lee. I business rules enthusiast. I've been working in this field for almost 18 years across Australia, the UK, and North America. Currently, I live in DC. I thought that when I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be an attorney. So I kind of worked towards that, went to law school, graduated, and then I was like, I'm not sure if I really want to be an attorney. And then I was kind of interested in technology and then sort of discovered this world of business rules and business analysis, which was sort of, you don't need to be a programmer, but all the kind of analysis skills you learn at law school is very applicable. And so I kind of got excited by that and got into that. And I didn't expect like that 10 years, 20 years later, I'd still be super enthusiastic. I still am, and I'm sure I will be. Like, this is what I plan to do some flavor of this for like basically the rest of my life until I retire. I'm that enthusiastic. So I guess the do's and don'ts, and you guys kind of covered the stuff that I was going to say. I mean, one of the things was as I got older, I sort of realized that it's, you spend so much time at work and focusing on work and your career, and that's great and that's important. So the way to be happy is find something you have an aptitude for and that you're really passionate about, and that someone's willing to pay you a decent salary for. And if you get that, then that's great, because then, it's not like you're going to love every single part of going to work, but it means that, you kind of enjoy your job and your career and all that kind of stuff. So that's, if you can find those things, then that's fantastic. And then one of the don'ts I was going to say was actually your one about apologising. Yeah, women do this far too much. I know I do as well. I'm still, like, even though I know I shouldn't, I still do it. I try to do it less. That's the best I can do. And then the other one I was going to add, I was trying to think through more things when you guys were talking, like, oh yes, that's what I thought. So, don't underestimate yourself. Guys project and I'm generalizing, but guys project an overestimation of themselves a lot of the time, and women project an underestimation of themselves a lot of time. And I do this too, and I know I shouldn't, but that's one of my don'ts, or try not to.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm Reydan Yassar. I'm coming from Istanbul, Turkey. I've been working for Sony for almost more than 10 years actually. I practiced most of the time business analysis there, but actually at the moment I'm working as a competency lead for business analysts and also a development manager, like carrying the delivery part also. And in parallel, I am in a PhD program studying I have just finished my lectures and I'm at the thesis stage at the moment, and I am planning to work on the innovation theories, lifestyles of consumers, things like that. And I have started my career as a network operations center engineer, more technical side of the picture, but then I just wanted to also focus on the functional and communication part of the workplace, and I just decided to become a business analyst, and I started my career at Sony Eurasia as a business analyst. So for the must-do part, I can say that, so since I'm coming from more technical side, I just say that maybe staying in tune with the technical parties of your projects, like developers, security guys, the operational guys, may bring you some good viewpoint in order to make some also systems analysis and gain the system viewpoint. And for the must not do part is just preventing to present your emotional intelligence. I think this is the part that we are so strong, and I think we should also present that, and we do not need to afraid to build that empathy with the co-workers, with all the stakeholders maybe sometimes. So it will also bring so much value to your working experience, I think.
That's great. Thank you. Now, I just want to double check because there's a lot of echoes up here. Can you guys hear all right? Can you give me a thumbs up in the back? Okay? All right. I found that too. Early, even in previous ones, you can hear out there, but here it's got some echo. Okay, I'm going to kickstart with a couple of questions I have. And any one of you who wants to, ask questions, go ahead and start raising your hands, and we'll get that going. But I like to start with this question. What piece of advice would you now give your younger self if you had started out, when you were younger? What would you advise your younger self? To pick up whoever wants to chime in, go ahead. Okay, go.
So something that I totally didn't realize way back is how important confidence in public speaking is, because I was always very focused on the academics and studying and getting good grades and all that kind of stuff, which all that's important too, but I had no idea how important confidence in public speaking would be. So this would be like, whether it's this field or any field, whether it's like males or females, this is a piece of advice I would have, but especially for females because they're usually not as confident speaking out in the workplace, but it's like the single most important thing I would tell anyone when they're younger. It will make a huge difference. There'll be people that you might be smarter than, more competent than, but if they're comfortable speaking, whether it's in a meeting or in a huge conference room, those people will, they'll be the ones that get noticed and get the opportunities. Mm-hmm. And this has just been so apparent to me over the years, more and more and more. And I've seen as I got more confident, and I got more opportunities, and then when I got more opportunities, I got more, more opportunity to show that I could do certain things, and then that would lead to more and more things. And so there's, that's absolutely something that is really, really important.
That's great. Let me ask this question, since you think it's important. How many people are scared to death to public speak here? Well, it's not that bad. So we just have to work on it. It's great.
It can be, I used to be terrified. I'm not now. When Gladys asked me about this panel and about speaking, I'm like, yeah, totally, that's awesome. I would love to. But once upon a time, I would have been utterly terrified of this. So the more you kind of work on it and force yourself to just get used to it, then it goes from being terrifying to be really fun.
I'm still terrified. Are you kidding?
You fake it well. I would say the thing that I would think about is the importance of networking and relationships, building those professional relationships. I laugh about a time when I worked at the Federal Reserve Bank about 30 years ago, and one of the things I remember telling a manager at the time, she was emphasizing the importance of networking, and I remember saying, I've got this, I'll just do a good job, my work will speak for itself, and I really don't have time, and that's not my thing, is networking. And now, and actually for many years now, I've seen that is so critical to everything that we do, and that speaks to both women and men in the workplace. The networking in your organization and outside of your organization provides support and learning opportunities, and you never really realize until later, I think, in life that those connections help propel you in your career. They build you up, and they speak to the confidence piece of it. They give you the energy and the support that you need to be at your best. So networking and building relationships to me would be critical.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, I would add on to that. I've found over the years that people who I maybe didn't have a really close relationship with turn out to be very useful or helpful to me or I build a better relationship later, and it was kind of a surprise. So I think having, and never burning bridges, you know, when you do leave an organization or leave a team, because you really never know how you're going to find someone in the future.
And I would say maybe asking more strategic questions to the maybe upper management or the direct reporting lines, because maybe questioning more also give you a chance to change the thing that you are questioning. Let's say you are asking how we are deciding to promote people, or how we are deciding to the list of people that will be joining to the next conference or next workshop. So just questioning these type of things will bring you some platform to discuss with the peers or with the superiors. Then you will have a chance to present your ideas, your solutions, your viewpoint, and it will bring you to sometimes the contribution more to the organization well-being of all your teammates and the organization. So I would say asking more strategic questions, because I totally focused on doing my job, dealing with my area, and not just questioned all the things. It was something like I should do my work only, but my advice will be questioning.
Yeah, that's true too. I find that I guess women a lot of times just, you know, do as they are told, and we're so good at it, right? Because we want to just satisfy whatever the request is, that we forget that, asking why.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to ask one more question and then I'm going to open it up to the floor. Struggles. What are some of the struggles you have to overcome, and how you dealt with it in the past? Again.
I can start on this one. I would say one of the struggles as a woman in leadership and technology, or in corporate America in general, is that work-life balance, and showing and demonstrating for others who are newer in their careers how to make it all work. I am part-time, actually, in a senior leadership role at Commerce Bank, and it was really a new territory for our bank to say, we will create this position. I needed a different balance in my life as my children started into elementary school, and it was, I felt like the poster child for I have to show how work-life balance can work, because the pressure and those that are looking to me for inspiration and confidence that this can be done, I feel like you have to really kind of show that you've got this covered. And it's not easy. Every day there are new challenges that present themselves both at home and at work. And so it's an ongoing challenge. I think being aware of it and being open and talking about it, and being okay saying I don't have this all figured out, but it's a goal and it's something I aspire to, and I'm okay talking about it. It's not a secret, like behind the scenes, I want to have a good work-life balance. I want to openly say that. I think that is probably one of the things that is a struggle for all of us, but often we feel like it's not okay to address it.
Well, let me ask that question. You know, you work for obviously a large organization, and they allow the part-time to be a senior leadership. Well, that's, you know, a luxury, really. You know, and some of you are in large organizations too. How do you feel over the years, has that viewpoint changed in organization to support more women with those kind of needs? Or do you
I think my observation, so I've lived and worked in Australia, the UK, and the US, and there's pretty vast differences in that.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at work-life, so I agree with you. I'm personally terrible at that. And my observation is it's much, that sort of having a better balance is much harder in the US
I would agree.
Australia or Europe.
I don't think we've improved a lot in the United States on that, unfortunately. I still see, I don't have any children, and honestly, I'm not good at it either. I've pretty much worked my life. But I see women who have children, and I'm amazed at what they have to go through, and act like during the day that everything's fine, even though maybe their child is ill or there's some problem going on, and then are forced to try to get out of meeting in time to go, and there's not a lot of respect for the value of raising children and the complexity of your life when you do that. So I think we could do a lot better at that still.
So I also don't have children, which is, I think, another reason why I love my job and I don't have children, so I'm always working all the time.
Yeah.
And I have friends all around the world, and I sometimes in the US, I'm like, I don't know how you do it. Like, I'm really like, I don't know how you do it. I don't think I could do that in the US. Whereas if I were back in London or in Australia, I feel like I'd be more easily able to manage it.
This is a plug for Commerce Bank, I suppose, and I will say I think they have done a fantastic job of recognizing that when you have the right talent, it is your most important resource and asset, and accommodating to ensure that you retain, and that you keep motivated the great talent. They really have focused on that, so a great plug for Commerce. The other thing I would say is, with confidence over time in your career, you realize that I need to be able to do what works for me. I have earned this. I'm an asset to them. They need me. I am mutually respectful to my opportunity at the bank, but it's a mutual respect for the organization and for the employee. And one of the things that I always think back to is, there have been times where a male in our organization has, their wife's traveling, and they make this big production in a meeting. Okay, I have to have my cell phone with me, and I may have to leave early, and my wife's out of town, and and you hear this and you think, okay, wait a minute, that gives me the permission every day to say and do what I need to do. So I think about those pivotal moments where I see that and think, okay, we have the permission to be who we are and do what we need to do to be our authentic selves.
Okay, let me get back to the original question, which is struggles. I'm sorry I took that. I'm going to end up asking all the questions here, everybody, if you don't jump in. But let's finish the struggle question.
I have another one, which is learning how not to take everything personally.
Yeah.
So, and this confidence ties into this, as you move on. But I would always kind of, everything I'd sort of take a bit too personally, maybe, and I would get upset about things when, okay, yes, there's this problem, but it doesn't help to get upset about it. It helps to go, okay, what's the problem, and how can we address it, and how can we solve it? And so over the years, I've gotten better at spending less time and emotional effort on just getting upset about it, and more time and effort on just working out, well, how can we improve this, or how can we solve this? And it's much better, because otherwise, I think, generalizing, women are more, they feel things, and they, when something happens, even if it's not necessarily your fault, you kind of feel it, and you get a bit upset about it. But that's sort of not helpful. It's not helpful. Just what's the problem, and what steps can we take to improve it? And that's much more productive. So I'm better at that now than I used to be.
Gladys, I would say one of my struggles, and I'm still occasionally faced with it, is how disappointing it's been for women who have been ahead of me not being supportive of other women, and feeling like you kind of had to fight more sometimes against women than you did against men. And so I would encourage all of us to support other women, and especially people that are coming up, that, just because maybe we had a hard time, it doesn't mean we have to put them through that same struggle, that we really need to support them.
That is great.
And I can say that, at the beginning of my career, I was fully, there were too many guys around having too many technical background, and I wasn't so technical in terms of educational background, and it was hard to prove myself or get their respect. But as time passes, I just work hard. I know that maybe it's bad, but just focus to get all the things done, and try to also have some technical background. I have started a master's degree in more technical part, and just gain their, let's say, respect, and move on. But then I just realized that I had that functional and communicational thing in me, and I can also focus on that part, and just dropped. I just try to create a harmony of all the competencies that I have, and I'm more happier compared to the beginning.
Okay, we have questions here. Okay, there's a mic coming. Oh, okay, that one first, and then we'll come out. All right, go ahead. We'll get to it.
Good afternoon. Thank you for sharing your personal stories with us. One of the things that I've heard from other leaders in my organizations is some of the same things you shared today, specifically on one, not apologizing for whatever, and the talks you've shared about being a mother or not, and relating back to not apologizing. One of the things that I've always heard is don't apologize for being a mom. If you have to leave, just say, I have another appointment. You don't have to explain that I'm a mom, I have to leave by 4:30 to pick up my kids. So I just wanted to share that as well. My question I have is, do you have any insights on building your knowledge in the areas that aren't your strengths, with the fact of knowing that not everyone can go after having an MBA or taking additional college classes? What is that balance that you may have found to build that maybe technical strengths when you're having that business background?
I'd love to address that. I've been in the training business for a lot of my career, and I think it is extremely important. You know, the IIBA is really emphasizing the lifelong learning, that we always are going to have to learn new things, whether they're our strengths or they're just new technologies. It's very important. And I think that's one of the exciting things about where we are now is there's so much information available to everybody. You know, I just heard something that really got me excited a couple weeks ago, and that was, there was a study that said one of the best ways to relieve stress is to learn something new. It's not to meditate or take a deep breath, but it's to get your brain engaged in learning some new material, and I was so excited to see that. So I say anytime you've got 5 minutes, watch a YouTube video or Google and read an article. I mean, there's so much information available, and now we're focused on kind of micro learning, and when you need to know something, go out and read about it, go out and study some information. It's so much easier than it used to be to have access to really interesting and valuable information that I think take advantage of those little bits of time, you know, when you can, or when you hear about something new. You know, I just sat in a presentation on AI, and honestly, I didn't know half of what IBM was talking about, but I made a lot of notes, and I'm going to be going back and Googling some of that, just to keep your brain engaged and to pick up some things that might be useful in the future.
I have two quick comments. First, on the leaving to do something as a mom, I just want to speak to that really quickly. I openly talk about why I'm leaving, and I actually would encourage, if you have the opportunity, I think it's great to say why you're going to do what you do. I'm off to a parent-teacher conference, I'm off to a soccer game. I think that continues to propel the balance in the world. So I think for me personally, say it, be confident about it, it's okay, you have permission to do that. On the learning, I think one of the things that I have to continue to tell myself is learn just enough to be confident in whatever the topic is. Find experts, surround yourself with people who know more, or resources that are available. But I think about the Cliff Note version of subjects. I feel that there's so much out there, and you could just go down a rabbit hole that will consume you. So find just enough, know enough to be okay, and to be able to understand what they're talking about in a presentation, and then surround yourself with the people and the resources that can give you more if you need it.
Good advice. Any more comments before the next question? There's a question here. Thank you, Christy.
Good afternoon, ladies. Oh, you can hear me. So I have a two-part question because I don't want to hog the room. And I would like to invite Gladys. This is for all of the panel, but I would like to invite Gladys to address this as well. So I'm a big fan of superhero movies and cartoons and all of that. And what I've noticed is that they do not have a double standard. I mean, there are super women and there are super men, and they really portray life in balance. And so part one of my question is, in your lives and in your professional careers, have you noticed a double standard? And how do you deal with that? That's really one question. And then the other thing is, I think you are all super women, you are Wonder Women. And so if you had a superpower, which you all do, could you just share what that is?
Who would like to start with that? When you say double standard, what do you mean? And in ourselves, or do you mean other people double standard?
So a double standard for me is it's okay for a man or somebody to do it, but it's not okay for a woman. Or there's an effort required to get to senior leadership at this level, but you don't have that. You have to work twice as hard. So are the standards equal? Are they balanced, if you will?
I can start with that double standard. If that, no. I always complain about this. Men can forget about things, and it's forgiven. It's like, I don't do that. They just expect there's a secretary behind them to help them do whatever, remind them to do this. Whereas I think even a woman in that same executive position is expected to remember to do those things and not just naturally, if they forget, they either take it on themselves or people expect, how can you forget? Whereas a man forget, it's like, oh, the secretary forgot to remind him. So to me, that's the kind of double, and I noticed that.
The other one, Gladys, that I think about is interrupting. Men do not have any hesitation at interrupting you anytime. And we tend to be too polite and we wait for an opening. And guess what? You cannot wait. You've got to do the same thing. And it's I'm constantly aware of this in board meetings and places where, there's a lot of really smart, opinionated people, and the men don't have any hesitation of interrupting anybody, each other or us, but the women don't. And I think we got to kind of push ourselves into the conversation a lot of times.
I would say one that I notice is the administrative tasks within a meeting in a conference room, who's clearing the plates, who's dialing into the bridge line, who's taking notes. And I think for me personally, a lot of those things are in my comfort zone, so I find myself doing them. But I had a great male mentor who said, you need to sit back. You do not offer to take the minutes. Don't set up the next meeting. Don't offer to find on the calendars when everyone can get together. And I think even if it's a natural, the perception that comes from that may not be helping women to seem equal at the table.
I can add that, so everybody expects more to be warm and friendliness from women.
Yeah.
But men can be more assertive compared to the women workers. So I can say that, and I think that there should be a balance when you need to be assertive, you should be assertive. If you need to be friendly and warm, then you should be in that way. It doesn't depend on the gender. So I think it's something like that. So there's a double standard to present your ideas, the way that you're presenting your ideas.
I'm having a hard time thinking of a superpower.
Oh, I can think of one.
you
Let me turn back time. I have superpower. Now, I don't know if it's a woman thing. Women seems to want to do so much all the time, and there's never enough time. So now that might be a negative for speaking to that, because then now I'm saying I want to do more. But really, maybe the right thing to say is I should do less. But if I have superpower, I say, give me more time, and then I can do more. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but that will be the first thing I say. Oh, if I have more time, I can just finish this one last thing. I can spend a little more time with my daughter. I can do this a little better. I can do my presentation a little better. So, but that's what I would want.
I totally agree there can be a stick to freeze the world, and you continue to do your things and then come back and unfreeze.
Yeah.
The superpower question requires us to be confident and proud of who we are, so it's an interesting question, and thanks for the challenge. We don't often highlight our strengths, I think, so it's a really intuitive question. I would say, for me, I think reading a room and reading people has probably been one of those things that's helped me along. There are times where I'll walk out of a room and say, I kind of feel like there might have been this tension or there might not be alignment on this issue. And sometimes I'm the only one that senses that, but being able to go after that and try to kind of rectify those nuances that happen, I think has been important.
That's great. I feel like I've got that superpower also. When I do a lot of training with people, I can tell who in the room is struggling or disagreeing with me. So that's a good one. Thank you.
That's a strength for us, absolutely, right? So use it. I think, I think women are better intuitively for that. Yeah.
So comments I've had a lot is, so I'm very passionate about what I do, and I get a lot of feedback that that I can get the people excited about it as well. And I think back to when I was at school, if I had teachers at school, whether it's like elementary school or high school or whatever, that if they seemed a bit bored and uninterested, then I'm like, well, why should I listen to you? Why should I care? Because you're clearly bored, so why? And whereas when there were teachers who were quite interested, you got to know your content as well too, but it's not enough to just know your content. You have to sound like you believe it and you're interested in it and you're passionate about it. And then the teachers who were like that, I was much more engaged. I liked the teachers much more. I felt more like I wanted to work hard and learn it and make them proud of me and all that kind of stuff. And so I guess I've sort of brought that into then my career, because I'm like, why should they listen to me and be engaged in this if I sound bored? And so this is also going back to the point I made before, is if you find a career and a job and work that you're into, it's not a struggle to try and sound interested and passionate about it. It just comes naturally. So I think that maybe that's what I'm going to say for my answer.
Good one.
There was a question back there, right? I don't know. Christy
Roxanne's got some.
Yeah, Christy, is that okay? And then we'll go. Oh, which one? Okay, whichever.
Good morning, ladies. I have a two-part question just like Beth. First question is, how do you build allies? Could you give us actionable, tangible steps on how you would build allies in your career? The second question is, how would you respond to comments like, you should smile more often? Or, that was an emotional response.
Yeah.
How would you react to that, or how would you respond to that?
So in terms of building allies, I had a dear woman friend who was older than I was not a business person, actually spent most of her life, as a stay-at-home mom, but she taught me something that I found very valuable, and that is that she read a lot. She read a lot of newspapers, she read a lot of books, and when she saw something that she thought was interesting to me, she would copy it and send it to me. She used to fax me things or send them in the mail. And so I found one of the ways to build allies is when you get to know somebody and you spend a little bit of time understanding their interests, when you see things that you think they might be interested in, now it's so easy. Shoot them a link, shoot them an email. And that's a touch point that isn't necessarily personal, but it allows them to know, hey, she listened to what I'm interested in and she's helping me facilitate learning more about that. And so I found that to be very useful. Plus, I enjoy it because I learned some more things about them. The comments about you smile too much, or we've all probably had some of those kinds of comments. You're too emotional. I got one of the comments, one of my early management positions, my manager, the director above me said, you defend your people too much. Wow. And I said, you know what? I'm glad that I do, and that's not something I'm going to change. No. So thank you for the feedback, but I don't want to change that.
I would say for me on the ally question, I think finding those that may think differently than you, that might be your challenge, and going after those individuals intentionally and doing what you need to strengthen those relationships has been far more beneficial than elevating those that kind of come naturally. And for a long time, I just gravitated to those that were more natural, but intentionally finding those that really can be your challenge in business has been helpful. On the emotional side, I talk about the emotion as I put my heart and soul into this. I'm bringing everything I have to this. So of course I'm emotional about it, and that's okay. I mean, that shows you how much I have invested in what I'm talking about. So it's about not apologizing. I mean, I've cried at work and thought, okay, am I weak? No, I really, really care about what I do, and that's great. And men may cuss instead, or scream, or whatever, slam a door, or they might be emotional in different ways. But I think it shows and it speaks to how much you care about what you do, and it's good.
So I don't have like a small specific do this instruction, but what I did discover was, so normally I just try to work hard, help everyone I can, even if they're in a different team, just try to be a nice person and help everyone. And I wasn't doing this to any particular end, just because, I like my work and I want to mostly try and be a good person and all that kind of stuff. But then there was a few years ago when something happened that was fairly significant and major at work, and I tend to not ask for help for things. I tend to kind of try to do everything myself and try to help everyone. But something happened where I was really, really, really going to need a whole lot of help from some people. And I was kind of thinking through, going back to your networking point, just thinking through who are all the people I can talk to, even if I don't know them super well. I really helped them with this thing a while back, so maybe I can reach out to them. And I did sort of reach out to them all, and I was amazed. Everyone was willing to take a call, an email, and I was like, wow. When I was trying to help before, I wasn't doing it to any end, but I'm like, it really shows, if you help someone, even if it's a separate team, it's not part of your responsibility, but you can do something that helps them. People remember this stuff. So then, even as 3 years later, you contact them, I remember when we talked about this, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember you gave me some really good advice on that, or you helped me fix this problem. Then when I explained the thing that was going on, they were willing to help me, and they're like, well, some of them were like, well, I don't quite have an answer for this, but I know someone else who does. So then they were willing to reach out to their networks, people I didn't even know, but they're like, well, I'm going to set up a call with so-and-so, and then you guys can talk because he probably has something else to tell you. And I was like, wow, this is so worth it. So they're like, they don't burn your bridges, and build the networks, because then when you have some big problem and you really need help, everyone will take the call and the email. So that's sort of a long-term plan. They're not specific with advice, but it really works, yeah.
I will also mention the similar thing. So when you build empathy with the people around you, they will also try to be there for you and support you when you need. Mm-hmm. I just a brief version of yours, but I just experienced what you have experienced also, and I can say that building empathy and the relationship and the networking it really works for that.
I am very sad because I'm looking at this clock. It says I only have 2 minutes, and I think we can go on for 2 more hours or 3 more hours, right? Roxanne wanted to say something. Huh?
One more comment?
Well, we're at 2 minutes. Are you guys willing to stay for 5-10 minutes more? Yeah? Okay, one more.
Awesome, I'm the lucky one. So thank you for all the advice. I do have to say that I think this might be the most actionable and best session that I've been in so far, and the advice is not just for women. I've written down really all of it. So thank you. I did earmark this session early when I looked at the schedule because as a manager with women on my team, I want to make sure that I can relate and understand where they're coming from. So what are some maybe misconceptions, predispositions that your past managers or current managers have had, particularly male managers, that you'd like to share so I don't make the same mistakes that they did?
Okay. So can we keep that short, ladies?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say it's amazing that you're here and that you care that much. So the first huge step is just your open-mindedness to say, I want to tap into this and learn more. So kudos to you. I think that's fantastic, and your team's lucky to have you as a leader. I would say for me, the one thing that I think as a male manager, managing women sometimes, is that emotional issue and being okay letting women express themselves in whatever way that is, and not being uncomfortable or worried or calling the emotional hotline to help them, because it's okay. It's just who they are and how they bring themselves to work.
So I've had a lot of really great male managers. I think I've probably been much luckier than a lot of people on average. The only thing I can think of that comes to mind is sometimes if women are upset about something or stressed about something, sometimes they just want to talk about it. They don't want you to solve it, they just want to talk about it. And so there's been a couple of times where there's been a bit of a misunderstanding where, and like, I mean, this happens in like, you know, personal life with friends and stuff as well, where I just want to vent to my manager about something that happened or some meeting with some crazy people and stuff. I just want to vent. And I just want to talk about it with someone who'll understand, have a good discussion, and then that's it. But male managers and just guys in general, they think that when you do this, you're asking them to solve the problem.
Right.
And they're like, well, do you need me to talk to this one? I'm like, no. I'm like, I don't need any of that. I just want some time. I want to vent, explain how I'm feeling, why I'm feeling that, have a constructive understanding conversation, that's it. And then I'll have it out of my system and moved on, and I'll forget. So that's like often how women deal with stuff. They just need to talk it through and vent and maybe get angry and upset while they do that. And then half an hour later, it's like, okay, we're done. I'm moving on. I'm going to forget about it now. And guys don't get this.
Good point.
It applies in the personal world too. My husband as well. Sometimes he'll say something, he'll be trying to solve stuff. I'm like, I don't want you to solve it. I just want to talk about it, and then I'll be good. I'll have it out of my system.
Okay, first I do want to say kudos to the men who are in here. I really give them a hand. You know, and also I wanted to say, if you really enjoyed this session, please write it in your evaluations. I'm really pitching to the program committee to make this an annual thing. And if you enjoy it, please write that down. And did you guys enjoy it? Did you learn? And now, one great big hand to our panelists. Aren't they the greatest? Thank you so much. This was the session that I look forward to the whole entire week, and I'm glad the turnout, and I'm glad the answers questions. It was so fun. I wish we had more time. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you all. It's been great. Great.